Hello and welcome to the Restricted Area Podcast, where we break down all things NBA and WNBA from this past week. As a reminder, you can hear this podcast a day before it can be seen on YouTube by checking out Amazon, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. I am your host, Alex Perez, joined by producer Colton Smith. How we doing?
Doing good, doing good. As you know, I had a great weekend. A great start to my weekend last week. I ain't gonna lie, Sunday kind of put me through the ringer. I ended up going to Columbus as I had planned to go watch Purdue play Ohio State, and Ohio State pretty much put belt to ass. So I had to make the long, boring drive from Columbus, or from Cincinnati to Columbus back to Cincinnati. And then I went to Texas Roadhouse and found out they do not make good pork. There is actually something on the menu that's not good. So just a double whammy, amongst other things. So it was a rough day Sunday. If anybody watched the Slide Job podcast here, they heard I just flat out said it. I'm not having a good day. But today much better. It's been been a solid start to the week. So we're getting that momentum back going and excited to talk some basketball.
Yeah, Saturday was really good. Got to see the fellas, and that's always a good time. Today, much like your Sunday, I'm watching my team get put through the ringer, so I'm not too excited about that. But this podcast will make it all better, and that's all that matters. I love college basketball. Good thing we're not talking about it right now. We're talking about the NBA and the WNBA. Another fantastic week in professional sports. What stood out to you, Colton?
Yeah, so the first thing that stood out to me, I made sure I had the notes ready for this, was the Orlando Magic. Things are getting a little spicy over there. Paolo Banchero and his coach, Jamal Mosley, calling each other out a little bit. Paolo says other teams make adjustments at halftime. We don't make any. Mosley then responded with, it's not about adjustments, it's about playing harder. And genuinely, he's not wrong. I don't think either one of them are wrong per se. I think it is about adjustments, Mosley. However, I do think in the few games I've seen, I feel like Paolo doesn't really have much room to stand on because he gets into a lot of the same stuff. I mean, I feel like his game hasn't really adjusted or progressed from last year. And I think that's one of the main reasons that he hasn't grown as a player this season. So it is disappointing to see this, but I also do think that's kind of the same thing for the Magic. I don't think I can really say their offense doesn't really have any new wrinkles in it, despite adding in Desmond Bain. They just have better shooting from him. I don't think, and their defense has regressed. So I mentioned Paolo Banchero hasn't quite taken that leap. He's still doing solid, but not necessarily like, at this point we were expecting like all-star status, and we did not. We have not had that so far. Uh, Desmond Bain has done well. I feel. I don't think he's done anything exceeding my expectations. He hasn't done anything below my expectations, but he has done what he was traded to do. So I think at the end of the day, he's done his job, but the team still isn't necessarily performing the way that we expected to, especially with how the East looks this year. Uh, Part of that is probably because Franz Wagner has been out for majority of the season, nagging left ankle sprain. Um, he's been fine when he plays, but it's been, especially recently, very far and few between. I think if he could get back, I think they could maybe play a little better than they look record wise. But I do also have this kind of weird feeling of I just don't know about the Wagner Bankero front court. Like two great players, but I'm not fully sold on how they play together. If they play off each other as well, I think Desmond Bain plays off either one very well. But I think when those two are on the court together, there it's not terrible. Like there's definitely worse examples of it, but I feel like they don't there's not enough contrast in their like offensive styles, right? Like I feel like neither one are really outstanding. Franz is definitely a much better 3-point shooter, but neither one are really outstanding 3-point shooters. I think Franz maybe has a deeper bag, but regardless, they're both kind of back to the basket, get to the basket, or make some fancy moves. Franz is a better facilitator for sure, but offensively, I just think that kind of holds them back. I think they need either Desmond Bain to take a bigger role. I don't exactly know what the answer is there, but I will point out that Anthony Black has been a great revelation. Probably the brightest spot, even though his last name's Black, the brightest spot on this team. With Cole Anthony out of the way, he's definitely taken a leap in that guard position, averaging about 15 points per game, having probably dunk of the year, right? So I think that's a very good revelation. I think he also complements the style of Franz and Paolo very well to go along with that of Desmond Bain. So I really like that portion of the core, but their defense is just average, like I said, which is a regression because that was when they first hopped on the scene. It was the defense there; they're top 10, top 5, even. We just need to get the offense there. The offense hasn't come. The defense has only gotten worse, and now we find them 31 and 28, seventh in the East. They're just kind of treading water at this point, and that's very disappointing because I was actually pretty excited for the Orlando Magic's new era. Not that it's over, but I do think it's coaching. I think a portion of it. Not that Jamal Mosley is necessarily a bad coach. I just don't think maybe this is the spot for him. I think maybe there's a direction that needs to go with Franz and Paolo and how the offense works to open up this team's potential. I just don't know if Mosley is the coach to do that. So, again, I think he could find a place, and that is maybe his spot. But I do kind of see the idea of maybe trying a new coach. But at the end of the day, I think when you look at the comments, I think the Magic are one of the teams that don't make too many adjustments at half. And I think it is kind of crazy for a coach to say it's not about the adjustments because that's really how like most teams that end up being successful are really good at making halftime adjustments. So, maybe he didn't think about that portion of it, but I do think there also is a side that it kind of feels like when I watch a Magic game, there isn't that grit that I saw in the past years. So I really see both sides of the fence here, but I went on and rambled about this a ton. My point is, that's my only storyline for this week. So I'll go ahead and relinquish it to you. But I'm very curious to see what you think about this team because it's very meh, but they shouldn't be, right? Like there's so much good talent on this team. The bench has kind of been lackluster as well. If you ask me, I feel like they haven't really been a bench that I would have expected when looking at that team. So that's another that I forgot to mention.
Yeah, listen, you know me. I am basketball reporter aficionado. I've talked to coaches high in the D1 ranks in college basketball. They talk about adjustments a lot. I've talked to certain mid-major coaches. They say adjustments aren't that big of a deal. So I don't know. It's I guess it's whoever you lean towards. I tend to lean towards the one that win a lot, but that may be just me. Anyways, you mentioned Palo not having much of a bag. Uh, Gucci bags are nice, but if you take them out time after time, they get worn and tired. And I feel like that's what we've seen from Palo. Nice game, but a lot of the same stuff. So you're not going to get much out of it. They do need to make adjustments for sure. Uh, Offense is still the thing that needs adjusted the most. When they realize that they don't have to play their offense to the forwards, I think is when they're really going to flourish. But they still have not figured that out. Uh, that neither one, Wagner or Banchero or Jokic or Sangoon, you really don't want them running a point guard type of role. You have Jalen Suggs, and if you look at the numbers, the offense is so much better when they're running it through him.
Completely forgot to mention that's a mission on my part. Great.
He used to do it. Well, I've griped about that enough in previous seasons. So Anthony Black, another person that they could run the offense through, and they're just like, nope. The forwards can take it, and it's a lot like what Kentucky's doing right now. But anyways, the Magic are not doing what they should be doing, and you hit on it. If the defense is not there, it's ugly because that offense is really ugly. They are currently struggling to beat the Wizards right now, the last I checked at least. So if that goes to show you anything, because the Wizards have, I think Brian Scalabrine out there right now. I'm not 100% sure. Uh, but it's not a hotbed of talent right there in Washington at the moment. So the Magic need to figure out something, and especially if you make big moves like you did for Desmond Bain, you can't have a lackluster season that may get you a play-in tournament. Just can't happen. And
Absolutely.
I will go ahead and just go with my storylines. Mine are all WNBA related. The CBA talks are heating up. Most recent developments are revenue sharing is providing 8 million over 13 teams, and union group licensing is providing 9 million over 13 teams. So 17 million over 156 players, uh, which is nearly 100k each. When the previous max contract was 400k, so each player at minimum getting 100k when the previous max contract was only four times that is huge. So they're making progress in the right direction for sure. But yeah, the latest is the league is offering 15% revenue share with a 6 million salary cap, uh, while the players union asking for 25% revenue share and a 9 million percent 9 million salary cap. So they are pretty far off. The NBA, the WNBA Players Union is also asking for housing, which is fair because if they're not getting paid, a tenth of what NBA players are, give them some housing. They also informed the Players Union without a new CBA in place by March 10th, the schedule will be impacted. And then, not to mention all that, you have things like Project B and Unrivaled, obviously, that I'm sure they could think of something if there is a lockout on this WNBA season, all just kind of smothering the WNBA right now to get these things done, I would say, and at least scaring them. So, with all this information I give you, Colton, do you see a WNBA season happening this year?
March 10th is really close. I looked at the calendar when you said that, like, oh, that's a little ways. Nope, it's the third. That's a week from today. So I'd like to think so. And especially with that pressure that you're talking about, I feel like the Unrivaled and a lot of the buzz that's been around the Unrivaled this season, I feel should put some pressure. We've seen it in the past with other sports a little bit. Not necessarily that like the UFL or it wasn't UFL at the time, whatever the league was, didn't necessarily put pressure on the NFL, obviously, but it did. There were some things that the UFL. It was what was it? It was the AAF, I think. I don't remember. It was one of the smaller leagues but actually, back in the day, what was it called? The XFL. Yeah, that was something that kind of put there was a different style, and that some of the stuff that we know today is like always being there is something that was caused by the ABA back in the day. So we're kind of maybe going through that portion of it. Not that we're really getting we're more looking at pay structure as opposed to rules. But my point is stuff like that does play effect in these conversations. And as the season wraps up, I do think that it definitely plays a factor into it. But I know both sides have been pretty bullish. I do think 20% is kind of a happy medium there. Like I think that's a good meet in the middle for now. I mean, obviously, I feel they deserve 25%, but sometimes you take what you can get for now. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't really blame them if they're really stuck with that 25%. I don't know, the full details of what a 20% deal looks like. So, but so long as we're progressing forward as we should be, I'm happy with it. So, and if the players union can come with it, I'm happy with it. But at the end of the day, my final answer, I want to say a hopeful yes, but I could see it really going either way. 7 days is a long but short amount of time for things like this.
Yeah, I'm sure they will be in those boardrooms for much of these next 7 days. But I am optimistic. I think they will get them done. I think it ends up being, like you said, somewhere in that happy medium, 20% revenue share and maybe like a $7 million salary cap, because this is the first year the WNBA has made revenue. It definitely wasn't owners lying about that and them just never being questioned. But anyways, yeah, definitely the first year the WNBA has ever made revenue. So they still have a long way to go before they can have those big talks. And another thing that the NFL and NBA really benefited from was they weren't challenged by other leagues 25 years into their existence, really, because the WNBA has only really been around for 25 or so years, maybe a little bit longer, 30 years now, but still this is a very real and daunting challenge that Project B and Unrivaled are presenting to them. So, really interested to see what happens over the next week, but I think they get it done. And other storyline fits right into it. The league that actually cares about their players and what they want. Unrivaled playoffs are in full swing, and the first round was a bunch of blowouts, but the semis were a lot better. The Phantom, who were in last place last year, made it to the semis, and they played the final. It was an 83-75 win for the Phantom. So they went from last place last season to the championship game tomorrow uh, this season. Dearica Hamby had 30 for vinyl. Uh, Boston was out for the Phantom, the defensive player of the year in Unrivaled this season. And it showed because the Eric Hamby went to town. But Kelsey Plum with 31 to answer and a game winning three to seal the deal for the Phantom. And they were also without Dana Evans, so a lot was asked of Kelsey Plum and the others around her in this game, and the Phantom got it done. And man, oh man, prime time action in the second semis. The Breeze and the Mist. The Breeze punched first, up 13-0 to start out the game. Brianna Stewart for the Mist had three fouls in the first quarter. The game looked like a foregone conclusion from the beginning. It was a 16-point lead after one. Mist cut it to six by halftime. The third quarter was only 1 point difference. So it was a 7 point lead for the Breeze going into the Mist. And for those who over Mist, so for those who don't know, once the third quarter ends, you only have to get 11 more points if you're the team leading. So essentially the Mist are down 18 at that point if you count in that difference. The Mist win the game, and thanks to an 18-7 run in that fourth quarter, the big time players made big time plays in that fourth quarter. Enrique Gumbawale and Stewie combined for 15 of those 17 fourth quarter points. They were making sure that they got to that championship, and a very young team with players like Paige Beckers and Cameron Brink. While we're very excited to watch, oh, and Dominic Malonga, who had three dunks this season in Unrivaled alone. So can't wait to see what she does to make some highlight plays in the WNBA if we have a season this year. But yeah, that very young team looked very inexperienced down the stretch, and the Mist got it done. So it's been a very exciting season overall and Unrivaled. The semis, I think, even exceeded expectations this past weekend. So really excited for this championship game tomorrow.
Absolutely, couldn't say it better myself.
We will go ahead and move on to our NBA rankings, where we uh, rank our top five teams in the NBA after another week. Colton, who you got?
So I think I might literally have the same five teams as last week. It's just been one of those weeks. Like I don't feel like anybody. Timberwolves and Magic, I will give credit for. I think they both went undefeated this past week. Magic, I might be wrong. I thought Timberwolves definitely went undefeated this past week. So I will give the Timberwolves credit, and they are on my radar to potentially slot into the top five if they keep this up. But I got Boston at number five. Uh, kind of like Baylor Shireman. 7-1 this team is. Not that he's necessarily done anything crazy, but 7-1 this team is when he's in the starting lineup with Brown, White, and the rest of the guys there. The Knicks I have at the 4 spot. They actually ended the Spurs 11-game winning streak. So big win there for them. I got them in the 4 spot. The Thunder, I think, are treading water still, just chilling with a lot of injuries in the 3 spot. I feel like Detroit in the 2 spot and San Antonio, of course, in the 1 spot are just playing better basketball right now. And I think that's pretty well it. I mean, the Spurs were on an 11-game win streak, just got that snap by the Knicks, who are playing better basketball and kind of have the Spurs number now.
Yeah.
I guess we should have seen that one coming before we made that pick last week. But
At MSG too, that's a tough place to play.
yeah, very true, very true. So I feel like it kind of settled in here, and it's going to take the Spurs or Pistons losing a couple games for them to be dethroned, or if the Knicks or Celtics go on a streak. But I don't really see anybody on the outside. I mean, they can break in, but I feel like it's going to take, like, nobody's on a streak right now. I think the highest streak in the league is like 3 wins. So it was just a very stagnant week in the league, and so my power rankings reflect that.
Yeah. I wish our friend Logan Hatfield was here to hear our OKC hate.
Oh yeah, we forgot to mention Logan was gonna make it, but he ended up getting to meet Matisse Thybulle, which is totally why he didn't make it. He knew they're good friends. They go way back. Ran into him in good old Memphis. The Trailblazers play him tonight or tomorrow. I think tomorrow. So yeah, if you see Matisse is in town, I guess check out your local Dollar General because you never know.
You know what? Look out, restricted area fans. We got that connection now. Matisse might just show up on the show. You never know.
Never know.
Uh, but I'll go ahead with my power rankings. Number 5, I have the Knicks. Winners of 4 of the last 5. Third in the East. And they whooped the Spurs, as we saw. Number 4 is Boston. Have lost twice since February started. That's rather
It's
impressive.
March.
Yeah, that's rather impressive for a team that was supposed to be tanking this year.
They were supposed to be bad.
Second in the East. I mentioned this last week, but it's still something to marvel at. First in opponents' points per game. What? Again, they were supposed to be bad, and now they're the best defense in the league. Cool.
What the?
Third is the Spurs. For me, I was excited to put them in my 2 spot, and then they got whooped by the Knicks. So I couldn't do it. They didn't lose in February. Very impressive 11-game win streak. Second in the West, still playing very great basketball. I'm excited to soon put them in my 2 spot at least, but I just couldn't do it after watching them get destroyed like that at Madison Square Garden. Now, Keldon Johnson was out, and he's probably going to be back pretty soon. So I'm sure they'll be up power rankings very soon. Number 2 is OKC, first in the West. Got SGA back and had that big win against Denver. They are also third in points per game, fifth in blocks. So a good defense and offensive team. Obviously, McCain is also playing great, like we knew he would. So that's really fun.
Shocker.
That's really fun and awesome. So excited about that. Number 1 is the Detroit Pistons, first in the East, least losses in the league, and the first in blocks and steals. An actual fun, good defensive team to watch for a league that people say they don't play defense in, but the Pistons are kind of putting an end to that narrative, and that may be actually why they get my number 1 in the power rankings.
The Celtics are supposed to be bad, man.
Yeah, as a Lakers fan, I just love how good the Celtics are right now. Could not want anything more for this NBA season. I hope they're good for years to come.
When's Tatum back? we we said it jokingly all season, but here we are.
They've already kind of announced that he's not coming back, and I think they're going to be fine. Uh, are they mad though now because since they're not going to end up being a tanking team, they're not going to get a great draft pick. But are they?
They'll get a diamond in the rough because they're the Celtics, I'm sure.
You're probably right about that. But anyways, we will go ahead and move on to our NBA pick'em. Well, it's usually our NBA pick'em. If you'll humor me, Colton, this week I would like to do a WNBA pick'em. They have the biggest game I feel like of professional basketball this week. 9:30 p.m. Wednesday on TNT. The Phantom versus the Mist. Before you make your pick, I just want to run you through the lineups real quick. Well, some of the highlights of the lineups. Mist have Stewie, Enrique, Alicia Gray, and Alana Smith. The Phantom have Kelsey Plum, Kiki Ariafin, and Natasha Cloud, and Tiffany Hayes. Again, Phantom coming from worst to best, and the Mist founding team, and they have Stewie and Enrique. But anyways, don't let me influence you. Colton, who you got?
Might have influenced me, but no, I pretty well had this thought when I saw this was the matchup. I just think Stu and Enrique are an abs like if they did last game, like at any moment they can really just flip a switch and be a problem. And no lead is really safe. You might have that advantage going into the fourth, but at the end of the day, you got to score 11 points, and they can kind of shut off the water a little bit as well with their size. So I think that 1-2 punch. I'm not trying to discount Boston and Plum. That's a nasty 1-2 punch as well, and in the post and outside. But I think there's a little more versatility on the miss side. I think they aren't afraid to be down, and I think if they even if they do, they can come back. I think they're the safer bet. Give me the Mist.
I believe I will have to agree with you. The Phantom are now without Aaliyah Boston and Dana Evans, so they are uh, up against it for sure in this championship game. Yeah, she's out for that season. She's out for that game as well. Yeah.
I'll have to go with the Mist then.
The Mist will, I think, dominate inside. Alicia Gray will be able to get inside. Stewie will be able to obviously get inside and score. And Alana Smith may not make a huge difference inside offensively, but she sure does on the perimeter, and she sure does defensively inside. So if they can't score inside with the pieces they have left, it might be a long night. And I think Enrique will have quite a matchup, obviously, with Kelsey Plum and Natasha Cloud, but I think they kind of cancel each other out. So I think the big difference is paint play, and the Mist definitely win that in my eyes. So yeah, I will go with the Mist for this one. I'm excited to see how it turns out. I did not expect the defending champion Rose to not even be here, but Unrivaled always surprises you. But now it is time for our shooting star, where we pick our baller of the week. Colton, who you got?
Sadiq Bey, how about his yearly 40-point performance? 42 points, 7 assists, 5 threes, and a win over the Jazz. Don't look now, folks. 6 out of their last 4 the Pelicans have won. Hey, might be making a push for the play-in. Watch out, folks. DeJounte Murray's back. He's been doing all right. I don't know why I'm trying to find the bright side of the Pelicans, but it's because Sadiq Bey dropped 42, and I feel like he does do this like once or twice a year, so I love it. Absolute bucket getter. Would love to see him play some winning basketball. Damn it! Like, come to the Pacers. Like, what's that going to hurt? Like, we could use another shooter. Uh, Absolutely. But yeah, shout out Sadiq Bey. He's my baller of the week.
Completely cleared. The Pelicans injury report. Zion will be back in that game tonight, so really excited to watch that one. But yeah, they are playing fantastic basketball, and Zion, I really do hope you're healthy for the foreseeable future. But mine, I'm going to cheat a little this week. I'm just going to say all the Unrivaled Award winners, just to list a few. The first team ended up being Chelsea Gray, Kelsey Plum, and Paige Beckers. Shout out to Rook. Second team, Brittany Sykes, Aaliyah Boston, and Alicia Gray. And the Defensive Player of the Year, as I mentioned already, Aaliyah Boston. And the MVP, as somebody may have mentioned, would have been possible, Chelsea Gray. Yeah, she had a fantastic year, so shout out to her and all her supporters this season. Uh, don't know who those were, but they were there. Yeah, that is my shooting star. Congratulations to those wonderful players and a wonderful season. But that will do it for this episode of the Restricted Area Podcast. Thanks, Colton, for being on. Thanks, Logan, for thinking about being on. Follow the show. at CX Restricted Area. Follow the CX crew on all socials at CX Pod Network. You can follow me on Twitter at the Will Dill and Colton at Colt_45. That's three T's, by the way. Yeah, thank you all so much for listening and watching. And until next week, like Colton at the function, be smooth.